we'll be plenty ready to exchange exile for homecoming. But neither exile nor homecoming is the main thing. Cheerfully pleasing God is the main thing, and that's what we aim to do, regardless of our conditions. Sooner or later, we'll have to face God, regardless of our conditions. We will appear before Christ and take what's coming to us as a result of our actions, either good or bad.
Thank you, Howard. That passage of Scripture, by the way, was read at both Jean's and Darren's funeral services. Sharon K. Johnson was born on February 10, 1941 in Halstead, Minnesota, to Art and Beulah Johnson, the fourth of 7 children. She was raised in Hendrum, Minnesota, and after graduating from high school, she moved to Fargo, North Dakota, where she attended business college and trained as a secretary. She worked for the plant science department at North Dakota State University, where she met her future husband, Sharon Arnold. They were married on June 24, 1967. After Gene received his Ph.D., they moved to Brookings, South Dakota in 1970. Darren was born in 1971 and Dawn in 1974. Darren was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis when he was 4 years old. Sharon and Gene devoted themselves to the physical and spiritual well-being of their family. Sharon did manual treatments consisting of pounding her hands on Darren's chest and back for an hour at a time, 2 to 3 times a day. Sharon taped her hands with masking tape before doing treatments because otherwise her hands would crack and bleed. Treatments were done without fail, even if Sharon was sick or the family arrived home at midnight after a long trip. The doctors also wanted Darren to exercise strenuously, so Sharon ran with Darren 3 miles every day, rain or shine, hot or cold. Sharon encouraged, threatened, rewarded, and loved Darren unceasingly his whole life. Sharon's love for Darren spanned the spectrum of what it means to love someone, even taking the form of making threats or administering punishment, if it meant getting him the treatments that provided life and health. With your permission, I will pause periodically during this obituary and add a few personal notes. I was not able to attend Darren's funeral service. I wrote a letter that I was honored to hear that was actually read at the ceremony. Interesting thing about Darren's illness, the family never talked about it. Strong family. Not because they were self-dependent, but because they were dependent on God. I still remember back in those days when I was leading college and career fellowship, some of the best days of my life. And for some reason, Darren rode home with me from a retreat. And it was during that ride, I think, was the first time I even knew he had cystic fibrosis. And this was after I'd known the family for a number of years. Strong family. Depended on God. Beat the odds through faith. All the same love, attention, occasional threats, and encouragement were given to Dawn throughout her life. It just looked different. Dawn and Sharon loved to walk, shop, eat, clean, and do most everything else together. I was privileged to see Sharon about an hour before she went home to be with the Lord. I had not realized until earlier last week that Sharon was even in the Waterloo Cedar Falls area, which is about 45 miles from where I live now. And when I found out that she was there, I thought I want to go see her one last time. And I was privileged last Friday to spend about an hour or so. Dawn and I went, spent about an hour or so with Dawn and Joey and Sharon. If I remember this correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dawn, I think you said that what I'm about to share was the last thing she ever said to you. It was just a day or two before the time we visited, and yet said that she opened her eyes, she perked up, and she smiled. She looked at Dawn and said, "We had a good time, didn't we?" And Dawn said, "We sure did." I think there's probably something about this in the obituary we'll get to in a moment, but Sharon was the quintessential mom. In a day and age where we live in a culture that sometimes belittles the importance of motherhood, Sharon paid no attention to that and gave her life to her husband and to her kids. And as a result, wow, the 2 kids they raised. The quintessential mother. After Darren and Dawn were born, Sharon never had a full-time job outside the home, but she made homemaking her career, for that is what she really wanted to do for her family. She made sure they had good food, clean clothes, a clean house, and anything else they needed or wanted, so the kids could succeed in school and Gene could succeed in his job. Gene once said that he could never do as much as he did at work if Sharon wasn't taking care of all the home business. What's more is she did it with a good attitude. As with most jobs, she didn't love every single aspect of it, but she put all her energy into doing what she thought would make life better for others. This carried over into her volunteer work. She visited the local retirement home once a week for many years to sing with and read devotions to the residents. She visited many other elderly friends through the years. Later, she also washed the toys in the church nursery once a week. Many of you probably never knew that, those of you who attend church here. At Brookings Wesleyan Church, we have a nursery program where 0 to age 3, we would probably run 50 kids or more. And every week of the world, Sharon would come in, she would gather up all the toys from the nursery and sanitize them so they would be clean and safe. Many of you probably never knew that, and she wouldn't want you to know that, just the way she was wired. We kind of developed an unintentional tradition, Sharon and I. She would wash the toys in the church kitchen, and my morning routine was to arrive at the office, go downstairs, make a pot of coffee. I always resisted the temptation to bring the coffee pot to my office because that was the only exercise I got every day. And often Sharon and I would run into each other and we would arrive at the same time. And I remember so many times visiting with her as she washed toys and I waited for my coffee to brew. She'd catch me up on how Darren and Jan and Dawn and Joey and the grandkids were doing. And if her purse was nearby, share an occasional photo. We sometimes would talk about how much we missed Gene, both of us. What a blessing he'd been. And we kind of had our own special little friendship over coffee and nursery toys. Gene and Sharon loved each other through the good times they shared as well as the difficult ones that were unique to their relationship. They enjoyed their family life when their kids were at home and adjusted well after they left. Gene and Sharon loved walking together, going out to breakfast on Saturdays and making day trips to Sioux Falls or longer trips to visit their kids. Sharon cared for Gene when he had cancer. She was his private nurse and made sure that he had the best care available. How many of you remember driving up Orchard Drive and seeing Gene and Sharon walking? Dozens of hands.